The sun was setting on Mirasfor when Park Yuna finished treating her last patient of the day. She wiped sweat from her forehead and smiled at the old woman lying on the medical bed. The woman was a refugee, one of thousands who had fled their homes when the Valari Empire decided their planet was in the way of a new trade route. Yuna was 28 years old. She had left Earth 3 years ago to work in places where people needed help the most. Her clinic was small, just 2 rooms in a building that used to be a food storage warehouse. But it was enough. Every day she saw dozens of patients. She gave them medicine. She cleaned their wounds. She listened to their stories. The Valari Empire did not care about these people. To them, refugees were just numbers on a report, problems to be managed. Yuna had learned to hate the Empire quietly, in the way that good people learn to hate systems that crush the weak that evening. She heard shouting outside. She ran to the window and saw Valari soldiers marching through the refugee camp. There were about 30 of them, wearing their black armor with the golden symbol of the Empire on their chests. They were pushing people out of their tents, forcing them to gather in the center of the camp. Yuna grabbed her recording device and slipped out the back door. She moved through the shadows until she could see what was happening. A tall Valari officer stood on a platform made of supply crates. He had pale blue skin and 4 eyes, like all his kind. His name was Commander Toran, and he was speaking through a translator device that made his words sound flat and cold. "You have been ordered to relocate to Camp 7, he said. "This area is now designated for military use. You will leave tonight." An old man stepped forward. Yuna recognized him. His name was Mr. Beak, and she had treated his granddaughter for a fever just last week. He was thin and tired, but he stood straight. "Please," Mr. Beak said. "We cannot move again. The children are sick. The old ones are too weak to travel. Give us 1 more week." "Just 1 week." Commander Turan looked at the old man the way someone might look at an insect. Then he pulled out his weapon and shot Mr. Beak in the chest. Yuna covered her mouth to stop herself from screaming. The refugees cried out in fear and grief. Some tried to run. The soldiers raised their weapons and began firing. In less than a minute, more than 40 people lay dead on the ground. Yuna recorded everything. Her hands were shaking, but she did not stop. She recorded the bodies. She recorded the soldiers laughing. She recorded Commander Turan stepping over a dead child without even looking down. When the soldiers finally left, Yuna ran back to her clinic. She connected her device to the emergency transmitter and began sending the footage to Earth. If people saw this, they would have to do something. The galaxy would have to respond. She was still transmitting when the door exploded inward. Valari soldiers poured into the room. They grabbed her and threw her to the ground. Commander Turan walked in slowly, holding her recording device in his hand. "Interesting," he said, watching the footage. "You thought this would matter?" Yuna looked up at him. There was blood on her lip from where she had hit the floor, but her eyes were steady. "People will see what you did. People will see what we allow them to see." Turan crushed the device under his boot. "Your transmission was blocked." No one will ever know, but he was wrong. The transmission had been running for several minutes before the soldiers arrived. Most of it had already reached human space. Turan grabbed Yuna by the arm and dragged her outside. The surviving refugees were still huddled in the camp, too afraid to move. He threw her down in front of them. "This human tried to interfere with Imperial business," he announced. "Let this be a lesson to all of you. Humans are nothing. Your lives mean nothing. Your deaths mean nothing." He raised his weapon and pointed it at Yuna's head. She thought about her father. She had not seen him in 3 years, not since she left Earth. He had not wanted her to go. He said the galaxy was dangerous, that the Valari could not be trusted. But she had insisted. She wanted to help people. She wanted to make a difference. She hoped he would understand. She hoped he would forgive her. The shot echoed across the empty camp. The news reached Earth 4 days later. The human government released a statement expressing deep concern over the incident. They promised to investigate. They promised to seek justice through diplomatic channels. They did nothing. But the footage also reached other places. Private networks. underground channels. Old soldiers who still remembered what the Valari done during the border wars, and had reached a small farmhouse in the Korean countryside, where an old man sat alone in a dark room. Park Tae-ho was 79 years old. His hair was gray, and his face was lined with age. But his eyes were still sharp, and his hands were still steady. They had always been steady. It was the thing that had made him famous long ago, when he was a different man. He watched the footage 3 times. He watched his daughter smile at a patient. He watched her record the massacre. He watched her stand before the Valari commander with blood on her face and courage in her heart. He watched her die. When the footage ended, he sat in silence for a long time. The room grew dark around him. Outside, birds sang their evening songs, unaware that anything had changed. Finally, Tae-ho stood up. He walked to the back of the house, to a room he had not entered in 30 years. He unlocked the door with a key he kept around his neck. Inside, there was dust on everything. Old equipment, old uniforms, old memories. On the wall hung dozens of medals and commendations from a war most people had forgotten. And in a case made of glass, there was a rifle. He had built it himself back when he was young. It had killed more enemies than any weapon in human history. The Valari had called it the Devil's Finger. They had called him the Ghost of Kepler. He picked up the rifle. It felt familiar in his hands, like greeting an old friend. Park Tae-ho had buried himself 30 years ago. He had promised his wife before she died that he would never kill again. He had kept that promise. But his wife was gone now, and his daughter was gone too. He had nothing left to lose. The ghost was awake. The message arrived at midnight on a secure channel that had not been used in 3 decades. Kong Do-yeon was sitting in his office when his old military communicator suddenly lit up. He stared at it for a full minute before picking it up. Only one person in the galaxy knew that frequency. "I need information," said the voice on the other end. It was older now, rougher, but Do-yeon would have recognized it anywhere. "Tae-ho," he whispered. "Everyone thinks you are dead." Not anymore. Do-yeon had served with Park Tae-ho during the border wars. He had watched the man do impossible things. He had seen him hit targets from distances that should not be possible. He had seen him disappear into enemy territory alone and return weeks later with half the enemy command dead. After the war, Tae-ho had vanished. The Valari had put a bounty on his head worth 50 million credits. Hunters from across the galaxy had searched for him. None of them ever found him. Eventually, everyone assumed he had died somewhere quiet, and the legend faded into history. Now the legend was calling him on the phone. "I saw the footage," Do-yeon said carefully. "The girl on Miras 4. She had your last name." "She was my daughter." Do-yeon closed his eyes. He understood now. He understood everything. "What do you need?" "Everything. The commander who killed her, his location, his patrol routes, the names and faces of every soldier who was there that day. That will take time." "I've waited 30 years, Tae-ho replied. "I can wait a few more days." Do-yeon worked for 3 days without sleep. He called in every favor he had. He hacked into systems he should not have been able to access. He bribed officials, threatened informants, and pieced together information from 100 different sources. When he was finished, he had a complete file on Commander Turan and his unit. Turan was stationed on a military base in the Velar system. He was being celebrated as a hero for maintaining order on Miras 4. He had received a promotion and was expected to receive another one soon. The soldiers who had participated in the massacre were scattered across different posts. But Do-yeon had found them all. 37 names. 37 faces. 37 targets. He sent the information to Tae-ho, along with a warning. "The Empire will not let this go unpunished. If you do this, you will be hunted by every power in the galaxy." The reply came within seconds. "Good. Let them come." The next person Tae-ho contacted was a woman named Anna. She had been 18 years old when she first served under his command. Fresh out of training, terrified, and convinced she was going to die, Tae-ho had taken her under his wing. he had taught her how to survive. More importantly, he had taught her why surviving mattered. Now, she was 48 years old and commanded her own ship. It was officially listed as a cargo vessel, but everyone who knew Hannah knew better. The ship was fast, quiet, and equipped with military-grade stealth, technology that she had acquired from various sources over the years. When Taeho told her what he planned to do, she did not hesitate. "I will take you anywhere you need to go," she said. "Just give me a location." "This will be dangerous," Taeho warned her. "The Empire will hunt anyone who helps me." Hannah laughed. "Sir, with respect, I have been waiting 20 years for a chance to hit back at those blue-skinned bastards. When do we leave?" They left Earth 3 days later. The human government knew, of course. Their intelligence services tracked every ship that left the system. They saw an unregistered vessel carrying an old man and a small crew heading toward Valari space. Officially, they condemned any unauthorized military action. They released statements calling for peace and diplomacy. They warned that humanity could not afford another war with the Empire. Unofficially, certain tracking systems experienced technical difficulties. Certain patrol routes were quietly changed. Certain officials looked the other way. Humanity might not be able to fight the Empire openly, but they could give one old man a clear path. Meanwhile, in Valari space, the first reports were reaching the Imperial Intelligence Division. A human ship had crossed into their territory. It was small, fast, and impossible to track. They lost it almost immediately. Most officers dismissed it as a smuggling vessel. The Empire's borders were large, and small ships slipped through all the time. It was nothing to worry about, but one officer did not dismiss it. His name was Admiral Varen, and he was very old by Valari standards. He had commanded forces during the border wars. He had seen things he still dreamed about on bad nights. He ran a search on the ships. Energy signature. It matched the profile of vessels favored by human special forces during the war. Then he ran a search on any recent events that might motivate a human soldier to cross into Empire territory. He found the footage from Miros 4. He found the name of the dead woman. He found her connection to a certain retired soldier. Admiral Varen went pale. He immediately sent a priority message to Commander Tehran. "You are in danger." "Extreme danger?" "There is a human coming for you. His name is Park Taeho. He was known during the war as the Ghost of Kepler. He killed more of our soldiers than any single enemy in history. Do not underestimate him. Do not try to fight him. Run. Run now." Commander Tehran received the message during a celebration party. He had just received his new promotion and was enjoying the admiration of his fellow officers. He read the message with mild curiosity. Park Taeho, the Ghost of Kepler. He had heard stories, of course. Everyone had heard stories. But that was ancient history. The man would be nearly 80 years old by now if he was even still alive. What could one old human do against the might of the Empire? Tehran deleted the message and returned to his party. Across the galaxy, on a small ship moving through the darkness between stars, Taeho sat alone in his quarters. He was cleaning his rifle, a ritual he had performed thousands of times before. On the wall, he had pinned a photograph of Yuna. She was smiling in the picture. Wearing the uniform of the aid organization she worked for, she looked so young, so full of hope. He had not been able to protect her. He had not been there when she needed him, but he could give her justice. He could make sure that everyone who had participated in her death would pay the price. He finished cleaning the rifle and set it aside. Then he picked up the list of names that Daeon had sent him. 37 names. He would start with the ones on the outer posts, the easy ones. The ones who thought they were safe. By the time the Empire realized what was happening, half of them would already be dead. The ghost had returned to work. The first soldier died in his sleep. His name was Officer Chiron, and he was stationed on a small outpost near the edge of Valari space. He had been one of the soldiers who fired into the crowd on Miros 4. He had killed 3 refugees that day, including a child. The outpost had good security, cameras everywhere, motion sensors. armed guards at every entrance. No one could get in without being detected, but when the morning shift came to wake Chiron, they found him dead in his bed. A single wound, perfectly placed through his heart. No one had heard anything. No one had seen anything. The cameras showed nothing unusual. The investigation lasted 2 weeks and produced no answers. The second soldier died during a routine patrol. His squad was walking through a forest on a training world. 7 soldiers, all armed, all alert. They heard a single shot from somewhere far away. When they turned around, one of their members was lying on the ground with a hole in his head. They searched the forest for hours. They found nothing. No tracks, no shell casings, no sign that anyone had ever been there. The shooter had fired from over 3 kilometers away through dense vegetation and hit a moving target with perfect accuracy. The third soldier died while giving a speech. He was a sergeant. Recently promoted for his excellent performance during the Myers for operation, he was standing on a stage in front of 200 soldiers, surrounded by guards. Protected by energy shields, mid-sentence, his head exploded. The crowd erupted in chaos. Soldiers ran in every direction. Guards fired at shadows. No one could figure out where the shot had come from. Later, analysis suggested the shooter had been positioned on a moon orbiting the planet. The shot had traveled through space, through the atmosphere, through the energy shield during a microsecond gap in its rotation, and into the target's head. It was impossible. But the sergeant was still dead. After that, the killings came faster. A sniper on one base, an explosion on another, a poison in someone's food, a knife in the dark. Every few days, another soldier from the Miros 4 massacre turned up dead. The Empire assigned its best investigators. They found nothing. Every trail went cold. Every lead ended in confusion. The survivors began to panic. Some of them refused to leave their quarters. Others requested transfers to the most protected bases in the Empire. A few simply deserted, running to neutral space and hoping to disappear. It did not help. One deserter was found dead in a hotel, a room on a station that the Empire did not even control. Another was killed while hiding in a refugee camp, surrounded by thousands of people. A third was shot while standing in line at a food vendor, his head snapping back before anyone heard the sound. The message was clear. There was nowhere to run. There was nowhere to hide. The ghost was coming, and nothing could stop him. Admiral Varen watched the reports pile up on his desk with growing dread. He had tried to warn them. He had tried to explain what Park Tae-ho was capable of. No one had listened. They had called him paranoid. They had called him old and out of touch. Now 17 soldiers were dead. The Empire had no idea how to respond. He requested a meeting with the High Council, the ruling body of the Valari Empire. They granted him 5 minutes. "You do not understand humans," he told them. "You think they are weak because they are small and short-lived. You think they are primitive because they came to space after us? But you are wrong." He pulled up images on the display screen. Humans evolved on a planet that was trying to kill them. Everything there was dangerous. The weather, the animals, the diseases. They should have died out 1,000,000 years ago, but they did not. He showed them footage from the border wars. Humans are persistence predators. They do not fight the way we do. They do not need to win quickly. They will chase prey across continents, across years, across decades. They will keep coming until their target is dead or they are. And this human? He showed them a picture of a young Park Tae-ho, taken during the war. This human killed 847 of our soldiers during the border wars. That is only the confirmed number. The real count is probably higher. We called him the Ghost because no one ever saw him. He would appear, kill, and vanish. We sent our best hunters after him. None of them came back. The council listened in silence. "What do you suggest?" the High Elder finally asked. "Apologize," Varen said. "Find Commander Turan and hand him over to human authorities. Express regret for the incident on Miros 4. Perhaps the ghost will stop." The council refused. The Empire did not apologize to lesser species. It would make them look weak. Varen left the meeting knowing that many more soldiers would die. On the 17th day of the hunt, Commander Turan received a package. It was delivered by a supply drone that had somehow been reprogrammed. Inside the package was a data chip. On the chip was a video message. The face on the screen was old and weathered. Gray hair, dark eyes, a face like stone. He spoke in a calm, quiet voice. "My name is Park Taeho. You killed my daughter on Miras 4. Her name was Yuna. She was a doctor. She helped people. She never hurt anyone in her life. And you shot her in the head and left her body in the dirt?" Turan felt his hands begin to shake. "I have killed 23 of your soldiers so far," the message continued. "I will kill all of them. Every single one who was there that day, and when I am finished with them, I will come for you." The old man leaned closer to the camera. "You can run. You can hide. You can surround yourself with armies. It will not matter. I will find you. I will always find you. Because you took everything from me, and now I have nothing left but time." The message ended. Commander Turan immediately requested a transfer to the Iron Citadel, the most heavily defended military installation in all of Valari space. 10,000 soldiers, automated defense systems, energy shields that could withstand orbital bombardment. His request was granted within the hour, as his ship lifted off. He looked out the window at the planet falling away below him. He was safe now. He had to be safe. No one, not even the ghost of Kepler, could breach the Iron Citadel. Far below, in the mountains outside the base, Turan had just left. An old man lowered his binoculars and smiled. He knew exactly where. Turan was going. He had planned for this. The hunt was not over. It was just beginning. The Iron Citadel was built into a mountain on a world called Villar Prime. It had walls 50 meters thick. It had weapons that could shoot down ships in orbit. It had 10,000 of the finest soldiers in the Empire, all equipped with the most advanced technology available. Commander Turan felt safe for the first time in weeks. The Citadel's commander, General Morok, welcomed him personally. "You are safe here," he assured Turan. "Nothing can breach these walls. The ghost of Kepler is just one man. He cannot fight an army." Turan wanted to believe him. He needed to believe him. For the first 3 days, nothing happened. The Citadel operated normally. Soldiers drilled in the training yards. Supply ships came and went. Life continued as usual. Then, on the 4th day, a guard was found dead at his post. He had been stationed at the outer perimeter, watching the mountains through a sniper scope. Someone had shot him through his own scope, the bullet traveling straight through the lens and into his eye. General Morok ordered increased patrols. More guards. More cameras. More sensors. On the 5th day, 2 more guards died. Both were killed by single shots from impossible distances. Both were the only members of their units to die. The soldiers standing right next to them were untouched. The message was clear. The ghost was not trying to kill everyone. He was choosing his targets carefully. He was sending a message by the end of the first week. The Citadel was in chaos. Soldiers reported seeing shadows moving in the mountains. They heard phantom gunshots that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. Guards became afraid to stand near windows. Officers refused to leave protected bunkers. The ghost never attacked directly. He never tried to breach the walls. Instead, he turned the fortress into a prison. Supply convoys that left the Citadel were ambushed on the mountain roads. The drivers were not killed, just terrified. Their vehicles were disabled, their cargoes scattered across the rocks. They returned to the Citadel, shaking and pale, telling stories of a ghost that appeared from nowhere and vanished just as fast. Communication towers stopped working. Repair crews were sent to fix them. They never came back. Search parties found their bodies days later, arranged in a circle around a carved message, "Send Turan." Soldiers sent on patrol began to disappear. Sometimes they were found unharmed, wandering in the wilderness with no memory of the past several hours. Sometimes they were found dead, killed by a single perfect shot. Sometimes they were never found at all. General Morok tried everything. He sent his best trackers into the mountains. They found nothing. He deployed drones to scan every square meter of the surrounding terrain. They detected no signs of life. He ordered his snipers to watch the likely firing positions day and night. They never saw anyone. The ghost was everywhere and nowhere. He seemed to know where every patrol was going before they left. He seemed to know which towers were weakest, which routes were least protected, which soldiers were most afraid. After 3 weeks, half the garrison had either deserted, requested transfer, or been killed. The remaining soldiers were exhausted and terrified. Fights broke out constantly. Officers accused each other of being traitors. Some soldiers refused to leave their barracks at all. The High Council had seen enough. They sent their greatest warrior to end the problem, General Veska. Veska had never lost a battle. She had conquered 12 worlds for the Empire. She was brilliant, ruthless, and absolutely without fear. She arrived at the Iron Citadel with 500 fresh troops and a simple plan. The ghost fights alone, she told her officers. That is his weakness. He cannot be everywhere at once. We will draw him out with something he cannot ignore, and then we will crush him. She ordered her soldiers to capture refugees from a nearby settlement. 50 innocent people, mostly old and young. She brought them to the Citadel and announced publicly that if the ghost did not surrender within 24 hours, she would execute them all. Park Tahoe heard the announcement through an intercepted transmission. He sat in his hiding place in the mountains and thought about his options. He knew it was a trap. Veska wanted him to come. She had probably positioned her best soldiers around the refugees, waiting for him to try a rescue, but those refugees reminded him of the people. His daughter had died trying to protect. He could not abandon them. The next morning, he walked toward the Citadel. Veska had prepared carefully. She had 100 soldiers positioned around the refugees. She had snipers watching every approach. She had sensors covering every shadow. The moment the ghost appeared, they would destroy him. What she had not prepared for was a human who had spent 60 years learning how to kill. Tahoe did not attack head-on. He did not try to rescue the refugees immediately. Instead, he began to dismantle Veska's force, piece by piece. A sniper fell from his position. Then another. Then another. Veska's spotters could not find the shooter. He seemed to be firing from multiple locations simultaneously. She sent a squad to investigate. They disappeared into the rocks and never came back. She sent another squad. They found the first squad sitting in a circle, alive but unconscious. Their weapons gone. For 6 hours, this continued. Soldiers died one by one. Squads vanished into the wilderness. Communications became sporadic as officers stopped responding. By sunset, Veska's 100 soldiers had been reduced to 12. She ordered her remaining troops to form a defensive circle around the refugees. If the ghost wanted them, he would have to come through her. She heard a noise behind her and spun around. An old man stood there, his rifle pointed at the ground. He was thin and gray, with eyes that seemed to have seen too much. He did not look dangerous. He looked tired. "Let the refugees go," he said quietly. Veska drew her weapon. "Surrender, human. You cannot win. I already have." She looked around. Her 12 soldiers were lying on the ground, unconscious. She had not heard them fall. She had not heard anything. She whispered. "Practice," he replied. Veska attacked. She was fast, much faster than any human. Her blade swept toward his throat in a strike that had killed dozens of enemies. Tahoe stepped aside. He moved like water flowing around a stone. Her blade cut only air. She attacked again and again. Each time, he was simply not where her weapon landed. He did not counterattack. He did not seem to be trying very hard at all. After a minute, she stopped. She was breathing hard. He was not. "It could have been great," she said. "A warrior of your skill should have conquered worlds." He looked at her with those sad, tired eyes. "I was a father," he said. That was enough. He stepped forward and took her weapon from her hand. She did not resist. There was no point. "Tell your masters what happened here," he said. "Tell them I am coming for Turan. Tell them nothing will stop me." He walked past her toward the refugees. He released their bonds, gave them directions to safety, and watched them disappear into the mountains. Then he picked up his rifle and continued toward the Iron Citadel. Inside the fortress, Commander Turan watched everything on the security feeds. He saw Veska fall. He saw the refugees escape. He saw the old man walking slowly toward the walls. There was no army left to protect him. Most of the garrison had fled or died. General Morak had evacuated hours ago, claiming urgent business elsewhere. Turan was alone. The ghost was coming, and there was nowhere left to run. The Iron Citadel was quiet. Commander Turan ran through the empty corridors, his footsteps echoing off the metal walls. The soldiers who had sworn to protect him were gone. The generals who had promised him safety had fled. The mighty fortress that was supposed to be unbreakable was now a tomb. He sealed himself in the command center, the most protected room in the entire citadel. The walls were 2 meters thick. The door could withstand a direct missile strike. The room had its own air supply, its own power source, its own communications array. He sent messages to everyone he could think of. The High Council, the Imperial fleet, anyone who might send help? No, one answered. The Empire had decided that Commander Turan was more trouble than he was worth. The incident on Mirasphere had become an embarrassment. The Ghost's rampage had made them look weak. The easiest solution was to let the problem solve itself. Turan was on his own. He sat in the command chair, watching the security feeds. Most of the cameras were broken now, destroyed during the weeks of siege, but a few still worked. And through them, he watched the old man walking through his fortress. Park Teho moved slowly, without hurry. He was not rushing. He had all the time in the world. When he reached a sealed door, he simply waited. After a few minutes, the door opened. The Citadel's security systems had been designed to keep enemies out, not to trap them inside. Teho had spent weeks learning every weakness. Every override code, every back door, room by room, corridor by corridor. He made his way toward the command center. Turan watched and felt his hope drain away like water through sand. Finally, the old man reached the last door. The final barrier between them, Turan had locked it with every security protocol available. It would take hours to break through. Te-Ho stood in front of the door and waited. Nothing happened for a long time. Turan began to wonder if maybe the ghost had given up. Maybe the door was too strong. Maybe he was finally safe. Then the door clicked and began to open. Teho had not forced the door. He had not hacked the security system. He had simply waited for Turan's fear to do the work for him. Inside the command center, Turan had been watching the camera so intensely that he had not noticed his own hand moving toward the door controls. His mind had betrayed him. His terror had made him open the door without even realizing it. The ghost walked into the command center. He was not holding his rifle. It was slung across his back, unused. He had not come to snipe Commander Turan from a distance. He had come to look him in the eyes. Turan backed away until he hit the wall. "Stay away from me. Do you know who I am? I am a commander of the Valari Empire. If you touch me, there will be war." "There has already been war," Teho said quietly. "Your people started it when you killed innocent refugees. When you killed doctors and children and old people who had done nothing wrong. They were in the way. They were just humans. You are all just humans. Your lives do not matter." Teho stopped walking. He stood in the center of the room, his hands at his sides, his eyes fixed on Turan's face. "My daughter's name was Yuna," he said. "Do you remember her?" Turan blinked. "What?" "The woman you executed on Mirasphere. The doctor who tried to send footage of your massacre. Do you remember her name?" Turan's mouth opened and closed. He had killed so many people over the years. They all blurred together. Faces, names, screams. None of them had mattered to him. She was just... There were so many. Her name was Yuna, Teho said again. She was 28 years old. She left Earth because she wanted to help people. She worked 18 hours a day treating refugees that your empire had displaced. She never carried a weapon. She never hurt anyone. She was kind and brave and good. His voice cracked slightly on the last word. And you killed her like she was nothing? You shot her in the head and left her body in the dirt, and you did not even remember her name. Torin tried to speak, but no words came out. She was my daughter, Tejo said. She was all I had left. And you took her from me. He walked toward Toron again, slowly, steadily. Please, Toron whispered. I will give you anything. Money, ships, power. I can make you rich beyond imagination. Just let me go. Please. I do not want your money. Then what do you want? Tejo stopped in front of him. They were close enough to touch now. I want you to understand, he said. For just one moment, I want you to understand what you did. I want you to know that she mattered, that her life meant something, that she was loved. Tears were streaming down Turan's face. Whether from fear or guilt or some mixture of both, he could not say. I am sorry, he whispered. I am sorry. Tejo looked at him for a long moment. Then he shook his head. No, he said, you are not sorry. You are afraid. That is not the same thing. He grabbed Turan by the collar and dragged him toward the door. What are you doing? Where are you taking me? To Miras-4, Tejo replied. To the people your massacre left behind. The survivors. The families of the victims. They will decide what happens to you. Not me, Turan began to scream, but no one was listening. 3 days later, ship landed on Muro-4. The refugee camp had been rebuilt. Thousands of people now lived there. Survivors of the Empire's cruelty, trying to make new lives for themselves. When the ship's door opened and Commander Turan was pushed out in chains, a murmur went through the crowd. They recognized him. They remembered what he had done. Park Tejo followed him out. He addressed the crowd in a tired voice. This man killed your friends and families. He killed my daughter. I could have executed him myself, but his fate is not mine to decide. It belongs to you. He turned and walked back to his ship. He did not watch what happened next. 1 month later, Park Tejo returned to Earth. He went back to his farmhouse in the Korean countryside. He put away his rifle, perhaps for the last time. He made himself a cup of tea and sat on his porch, watching the sun set over the mountains. The galaxy had changed. The Valari Empire had issued a formal apology for the Miras-4 massacre. Several high-ranking officials had been removed from power. A new policy had been implemented throughout Imperial space. Human civilians were to be treated with respect and care. The policy had an unofficial name among Imperial soldiers. They called it the Ghost Protocol. More importantly, a new phrase had entered Valari military doctrine. Commanders repeated it to their soldiers like a prayer. Never harm a human's family. Tejo did not care about any of this. He did not care about politics or diplomacy or the balance of power between species. He had not done what he did for humanity. He had done it for one person. He walked to the small garden behind his house. Yuna had always wanted a garden, but she had never had time to plant one. Now, flowers grew there in every color, surrounding a small stone marker with her name carved into it. He knelt beside the marker, placed a single white flower at its base. I found him, he said quietly. I made him pay for what he did to you. The wind stirred the flowers gently. I wish you were here. I wish I could have protected you. I wish I had gone with you to Miras-4, or convinced you to stay home, or done something different. But I cannot change the past. I can only live with it. He sat in silence for a long time, an old man alone with his memories. Finally, he stood up and looked at the sky. Somewhere out there, among the stars, his daughter had tried to make the universe a better place. She had failed, but she had tried. And that was what mattered. The galaxy learned many lessons that year. The historians would later write. They learned that humans were not to be underestimated. They learned that individual humans could be more dangerous than entire armies. They learned that humanity's greatest strength was not their technology or their numbers, but their capacity for love and their unwillingness to forget. But the most important lesson was simpler than all of that. The galaxy learned that human fathers are the most dangerous creatures in the universe. Not because they are strong, not because they are skilled, but because they will never stop. They will never give up. They will cross any distance, break any barrier, and fight any enemy to protect their children. And if their children are taken from them, they will burn the stars themselves to make things right. Park Tae-ho finished his tea and went inside. Tomorrow, he would tend his garden. He would read books. He would live out the rest of his days in peace. But tonight, he would remember his daughter. And that was enough.